News just in. iHeartMedia, LinkedIn have partnered up strategically to do a podcast partnership. This is very exciting, it's very nerve wracking, and it's also very thrilling because there is going to be so much that you are going to see in the new wave of doing things, especially when you're using LinkedIn to build relationships, to build communities, to build things that will actually give you, you know, consistency in your delivery, in your workflow. And this is a time for you to really come on board and see what LinkedIn are doing, what iHeart is doing. And these are platforms you do not want to miss at all. You just don't want to miss them out because these are things that I've come to see. And I said, hey, I'm going to talk about this today and give you some insights so you can learn about it. Welcome, Adora, David, Albert. Good to have you all in the room. Thanks for being here. I appreciate you, Lashashe. Lashashe, what's up? Sorry, I said it wrong. I'm so sorry about that. I have to get it correctly. Lashashe, thank you for being here. Shu, Taiwan, Boy, Joseph, Matthew, Demetra, Marlene, CM, and Hillary, thanks for being here. I appreciate y'all. You know, I want to talk about this thing today because, and as I was scrolling on threads, I saw social media today did an article. It dropped, it's kind of like information. I was like, let me just give you guys the lowdown. So this happened not too long ago. LinkedIn launches a Gen Z focused podcast via iHeartRadio. Now, this is something that I want us to talk about. So if you would like to come up, please come up. We'd love to connect and talk about this because this is something that will help you as a business, as a professional in 2024, prepare for 2025. And it just makes sense. It comes back full circle because LinkedIn is the only, and maybe Pinterest, but LinkedIn is the only platform, let me say professionally, that allows you to connect your RSS feed, right, to the podcast, to your podcast. All right, Adora, thank you so much for letting me know. And that is a great thing to consider as a business because if you have an RSS feed, there are two things that are happening. One, the author name is your name because you're the author, you're the host, you're the speaker, and you're the producer, or you're just the person that is speaking on the podcast, right? Because you own the podcast. And then two, your name is also on LinkedIn. So when you connect your RSS feed that has your intellectual property to a second party data platform, and you can put your content there to accelerate accessibility to your LinkedIn company profile because you have to have a company profile on LinkedIn to have access to the RSS feed so you can submit your episodes through your hosting distribution platform. So when you do that, you have a newsletter, you have a LinkedIn RSS feed, it makes sense. So LinkedIn right now are in the process, they're actually working on it. So don't be surprised when things change on LinkedIn because I'm also in the beta version for LinkedIn. So I got like the video version of LinkedIn before it came out. I don't know if it's still out of everyone. It still shows me beta, but people are still receiving that. So the way LinkedIn is going, if you're not connected on LinkedIn and you're not building your LinkedIn from the ground up, especially professionally, there are some things that may harm your business. I've seen LinkedIn work like amazing thing. Like today, we signed up with a business. They do drug testing in Memphis, and it's a clinic. And I got connected to somebody. Somebody sent me a message on Instagram saying, "Hey, I was in an Uber, and I'm all the way in Memphis, and I'm in Houston, and." The guy is like, hey, he needs SEO. Can you help him? I said, yeah. All right. So he sent me his number. I messaged him. I said, hey, I would love to connect with you. I hear you need SEO help. I don't know this guy from nowhere, from zero, no connection. And then I talked to him and I said, okay, let me audit your site because this guy is busy. I'm busy. We don't have time to get on a phone call or a Zoom call. So I said, let me audit your site. So I asked him, is it you have a brick and mortar? Yes. So I Googled his business and I gave him an audit. I screened his whole site and I said, your site report says that you have a bad presence online. Why? Because you're only listed on about 2 listings out of 67 listings potentially on the web, right? People are not connected to Alexa, Siri, Yandex, Yellow Pages, Waze, Apple Maps, Brown Book, Foursquare. All these platforms, you're not connected. So I told him, this is your report. And I also audited your SEO on your website. I can see you're using WordPress. I just gave him the whole lowdown. And I told him, hey, do you want to fix this or not? And he said, yeah, let's fix this. Without questions, I went to his website. I found his LinkedIn. Then I connected with him on LinkedIn and he connected immediately back. And that connection on LinkedIn build the trust because this guy doesn't know me. I don't know who this guy is. So the first place I'm gonna go to know who I'm dealing with, because you can have a business. Everyone can have a business, but I don't want to just say, "Oh, you have a business? Okay, let's work." I'm not looking for business. I'm looking for impact. So if we're gonna make impact together, then let's do business. So I now said, "Okay, let's do that." So I found him on LinkedIn. We connected. I was like, "This guy's legit. He's a professional. He's really doing his thing." So I now Googled and I did all the study work and everything. And now he paid his invoice this morning and we're working together. We're connecting him to about 67 local listings. So it takes about 2 to 3 weeks to get submitted because there are so many directories and Google is not the only platform that's a search engine. Google is the biggest, but it's not the only one. So it takes a couple of days to get there. Google will be easy because it's already there, but those are the things that start connecting you. So why am I bringing this up? LinkedIn, if you have a podcast, it's better because this guy probably saw my profile. He's seen this guy has a podcast. He's checked everything. So I don't have to explain myself because I've been talking for 400 episodes. So when you do those things, it stresses less on your business. So it actually amplifies your brand. And LinkedIn is doing something really big. So if you're not doing a podcast in 2024, don't be surprised by this time next year when things are happening with podcasts and you're trying to start a podcast in 2025. It will be it's not too late, but you'll be way behind others. So that's something I want to just highlight before we continue. Hey, Hillary, welcome to the room. We'd love to hear your thoughts.
Man, that was a lot to unpack. I got so many little tiny micro thoughts on everything you just talked about. First off, I think people who are sleeping on LinkedIn are just, you're grown now, okay? You don't need to be on Facebook except to remember your passwords, let's be honest. Every time I go to a website, I'm like, yep, just connect through Facebook. And I know that's stupid because it gives them permissions, but it's whatever. I don't have anything to hide. So when it comes to LinkedIn, though, especially in my industry, you would be shocked at like how many gigs I get for acting and voiceover and producing off of off of there. And it's not just for the job listings. I'm connected with huge names in the entertainment industry that I would never be able to get in front of any other way. Like there's no way that these people I just walked in and said, hi, I'd like to speak to the head of studio. Great. But I can sit there and talk to them all day long on Instagram. And so, I mean, not Instagram. Let me stop that. On LinkedIn. And like I said, we're grown now. It's time to make moves. So when it comes to the podcasting, doing the LinkedIn well, y'all, I cannot make words today. What is wrong with me? The LinkedIn podcasting. This is something I've been a little bit trepid to get into, only because I'm on social audio everywhere. You know, I'm on Chatter, I'm on Twitter. I didn't really want to jump into another one, but I'm seeing people who started from nothing, people who maybe have 100 followers on here, go on there, and suddenly they're giving these big, huge talks with like TED Talk people. High, and I'm just like, what the hell, dude? Like high end quality stuff. I should have gotten in the beginning. So this is one of those times where I'm sitting in a premises and inaction will not serve me. You gotta remind yourself daily, you know, what is the price of inaction? How much will it cost me to not get in on this? So I am so glad you're having this room. I'm all ears. Please take me to the top, baby, because that's where we belong.
100%. I 100% agree with you because there is so much potential for all of us to grow, and we all have a voice to show what we can do and say what we can do. That's why I joined Clubhouse. If it wasn't for me having a podcast, I wouldn't be on Clubhouse. I've always said that. So being on Clubhouse was an extension, of trying to say, okay, I'm talking on a platform. Is this mic on? Can you hear me? What can I do? Can I get more people to listen? But I was not trying to get anyone to buy in to listen because it's hard to even say, hey, listen to my podcast. Like, people don't have time to listen to your podcast. To be honest, I don't even listen to my own podcast, but I listen to other people's podcasts. And sometimes when I listen to my podcast, I'm looking for something specific. I'm either thinking about the music, I'm thinking about the how I'm speaking, questions I'm asking. I listened to my very first episode when we hit 5 years. I listened to it for the first time in 5 years. So it was very nostalgic. And I was listening to that episode. I was like, is this me talking? 5 years ago, I was literally manifesting and praying through words and saying, this podcast is going to bring international guests. I didn't have a roster. I didn't have a guest list. I didn't have anything. I didn't have a coach. I just had a microphone and a big mindset. And I was like, let's do this thing. And then guests started coming. So no one forced me to start a podcast. No one said, hey, if you don't want to do a podcast today, I didn't pay anyone to do a podcast. I just said I'm going to do this, and I teach myself how to do a lot of things. I taught myself how to swim, how to play the drums, how to cook, how to just do SEO plus going to school for that. So just learning and learning and learning and learning and growing is what I constantly do. Now I'm doing billboard advertising. And we're now doing billboards on the actual highways, on screens and bus shelters, in grocery stores, in malls, airports. Like, this thing is real. I'm just looking, I'm like, what is going on? Because we think about it and we ask ourselves, we're looking for an audience and the audience is in front of us. We drive our cars every day, there's an audience in front of us. We go to flights, there's an audience. We come on Clubhouse, there's an audience. So why are we looking for an audience when the audience is already available? The problem is not the audience. The problem is the positioning. And if you look at how LinkedIn are positioning with iHeart, it also tells you how
Say
you should
that
do it.
again. Repeat that. That bears repeating right there.
No, 100%, 100%. You have to, you have to, guys. You have to think about these things. If you don't think about these things now and position yourself, the problem is not the audience. Like, you know how many people you can talk to in a day? A day. Sometimes I'm like, man, this is a lot of people. Like, this morning I talked to somebody in Sweden, the next minute you're in Cali, the next minute you're in this country. It's a lot. I had a meeting with my team today, you know, and it's beautiful, but everyone is everywhere. Someone in LA, someone in Atlanta, someone in South Africa. So you wonder, okay, we're all busy, right? We're all working, we're all doing something, but what are we leaving behind? What are we saying in a day? Can you look back a year from now and say, okay, this is what I achieved? Like, when was the last time you did something new for the first time? And I keep asking myself that question because I keep asking, how can I improve? How can I get better? How can I do things? My goal this year was to hit 10,000 followers on LinkedIn, and I'm achieving that. Possibly it's going to happen by the end of this month or early next month because I'm at 9.5K now. Not because I'm looking for 10,000 followers, but because I had a goal in the beginning of the year to say, okay, if LinkedIn is what I need to use to build my business on top of my podcast, because I was building my podcast and I was like, okay, it's growing, but I'm not using my LinkedIn strong enough. Now I'm using it to the point where I'm getting emails and they're saying, "Hey, how much is your time for an hour? We want to interview you for something to do with Pinterest." And a company that does research found me and emailed me. My email is literally on my profile. Like, you can literally email me. That's how much access I'm saying. Hey, let's work. And the ones who want to work, they email me and they're serious. So the problem is not the audience. You can stand in the middle of the market and say, "Buy this soda." Not everyone's gonna buy soda. Somebody probably wants a cold soda. Somebody wants juice. Somebody wants water. So how do you know what somebody wants? So how you position yourself is a big thing. iHeart is the number one podcast network, right? It's a podcast publisher number one globally, according to Podtrack. And if you click the very first link, when you click on this link above, it will take you to the Business Wire article. And that was published last year. And I'm sure they probably did some updates this year, right? So when you read the statement, and I'll tell you what it says, because I also want to give you like insights, because I know when all of us may not be able to read this, we're probably driving or working or doing something. So reading an article is probably the last thing right now. So I want to use this opportunity to also tell you what's happening. So when you do read it and you listen to the replay, you can also go back and then we can talk about it later, or in between time. So we're going to be here for an hour. So the first thing that they said in the Business Wire is this. These are the key elements of partnership they've done. The first thing is they're launching new podcasts. So LinkedIn and iHeartMedia are collaborating and they're producing new shows for the LinkedIn Podcast Network. And they did that back in 2022. They created a podcast network, LinkedIn. So it makes sense. I'm sure their roadmap is picking up now because of digital audio. So it's powered by iHeart Podcasts, and they're offering new compelling content to professionals looking for ideas, insights, and inspiration that they need to get ahead in their careers, right? So people are listening to podcasts to get ahead. And very soon, I'm sure it's already happening in schools, in colleges. People are going to start using podcasts as citations to now, do research papers. Because if people are going to speak based on knowledge and you're talking to experts, then people can do research and then justify that and say, okay, this was said as a quote, but here's the data to prove that. Here's the statistic to, amplify that. So, or justify that. So, when you think about what the companies are doing and what the total available market looks like, you can build, right? That's why these guys are collaborating, right? Because they want to offer options and they're going to monetize their content, right? Monetizing your content is going to be so important. There's a room that I'm going to do here on Clubhouse. I scheduled it for Friday, September 6, 7 a.m. Central, on how to convert your keywords to money. Because one of the things that I've realized is a lot of podcasts are doing so well, but at the same time, a lot of podcasters are guessing. They're playing guesswork. So it's like, okay, I'm gonna try this. Let's see if it works. I'm gonna try this. And it's great to try this because if you don't try, you won't know, right? But there's a difference between trying aimlessly and trying haphazardly and trying with skewed data and then also trying with an intention or with a forecast or with some type of tenacity. Because when you're focusing on building relationships with people, it's your voice that's going to determine whether that deal is going to be signed or not. If I talk to you in some type of way and I feel like I'm harsh or I'm rashing you or I'm just pushing you, you'll feel like, okay, this is too much. I'm going to leave. That's the natural thing, fight or flight. So if you're going to do that and try to attract, if you're attracting, think about it like bees, right? You're attracting honey, you're attracting things to them, right? Because you're also having something that's sweet to give. It's a give and receive. It's a rate of reciprocity, right? So if you're giving people content that they're looking for and you've done your keyword research to know what topics people are talking about, and those topics are in form of words, then the words that you say will matter because the value that you bring has add value and you're actually adding sense to the conversation. You know how people say, I want to add my 2 cents? That's exactly what you're doing. But you're doing that with the intention of a strategy, knowing exactly what tactically is available in the market for you to actually justify what you're saying through data. So when you speak and say, "This are da 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 da," it's because you've done your research about that. And then when people respond back to you, the ones who are actually serious about connecting or doing more research, that means they also did their own research. So when you get to the table, we're not speaking based off what he say, she say. It's the facts. So if we want to solve X and use Y, then we need to apply A and B. So when we now look at all these pictures, we ask ourselves, what are these things doing for us and where are we going in the future? If we want to build a strong online presence, if you just wake up in the morning and you want to say, okay, I want to make an impact in the world. I want to help more people. I want to shed my light. I want to be able to give more people information. I want to, just give them value, right? The place you should think about is a podcast. Why? Because that's the most focal point you can direct information. Think about back in the day, radio, broadcast radio. Everybody listens to one thing. It's broadcast. Because podcast is broadcast. It's just iPod plus broadcast equals podcast. So you're still broadcasting. The only difference is who are you broadcasting to and who to you. That's just the only thing. If there are more people listening to you, then that means you're talking to more people. It's literally zero and one, one and zero. Is binary. So if we are looking at the formula and looking at how we are creating connections with people, then we're looking at the justified formula of understanding that we need to create content that people are asking. And how will we know what they're asking for if we don't search? So, with this kind of partnership and with what the opportunities are going to bring for you in 2024, 2025, I think it's a good time for us to consider looking at podcasts. One of the angles to show up online as, even if it's 1 minute of your voice, 2 minutes, just record and say, hey guys, hello, hello there. Like you're speaking, how back in the day, YouTube videos used to be so like, but just how home videos used to be. Like you record and it's like, hello everybody, just back in just old school, just hit record and just speak. Then if you know what you're talking about, then the more you speak, the more you're able to educate, the more you're able to elaborate. And then the more you're able to expatiate on things that you can allow other people to listen through you to understand concepts about what you talk about. Case studies, reviews, informational pieces, statistics. Those are things that people can learn from you. So if you're thinking about your podcast and you're asking yourself, okay, how do I tap into what iHeartMedia and LinkedIn is doing? If you want to tap into this thing, my 100% accurate response to this would be that you start a podcast. If you have a podcast, great. Next step, submit your RSS feed to LinkedIn. Create a company profile and make sure that that company profile is the name of your podcast, right? And the thing about LinkedIn, I noticed you can only create one company profile and one showcase profile, one showcase page. So if you already have a business page, then you can create a showcase page for your podcast. So that's why you have two, because it's a showcase. So you can create that as well. So when you have that, submit your RSS feed, and your RSS feed comes from your hosting distribution platform. So Albert, what is the reason? How did I miss this? Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. I'm just seeing this right now. Okay, so I will respond to this. What is the reason LinkedIn began a relationship with iHeart? And can I use Buzzsprout? Okay, Buzzsprout, yes, you can. You can use Buzzsprout. It's a hosting platform and it will have its own RSS feed, which you can also use as well. And then the reason I believe LinkedIn had that relationship and why they built it, from what I'm seeing, especially when it comes to the mega platform, LinkedIn is pretty much number one when it comes to professional networking globally because of the community they have. They have close to a billion, members. They have about 930 million members, and iHeartMedia are also top. So if I'm looking at where they're going, iHeartMedia is media. It's media. It's all full of, text, audio, video. It's all the good stuff, right? It's all the consumption. And then LinkedIn is the professional aspect. But LinkedIn have posts, they have articles, they have live events. There's, LinkedIn audio, there's newsletters, and there's a trusted and safe environment there. When you're on LinkedIn, you feel safe. So that safety and that privacy is a big thing. So I believe from those two angles, when I look at it from a B2B, iHeart are bringing in the substance of value because they have satellite, and that satellite allows them to get more responses because they're able to get into like other platforms. They can work with Pandora, with SiriusXM. So it starts getting into those fields outside just your Spotify and your Apple podcast. So you get more and more deeper into those layers, because when you think about a podcast, people stop at the devices. They should go to satellite. So when you start hitting the satellite dishes with your podcast, that's when you're really hitting those nerves, hitting those angles. So when you hit LinkedIn and you're seeing how LinkedIn is responding back to professional networking, that allows people to have events, have signups, that you can be able to. It's a really good way for you to get more clarity. And over time, the more you're able to use LinkedIn and increase your followership, if you have 10,000 followers on LinkedIn, at least 10% of that should be on your email list, because you have to build that. But if it's, let's say, 200%, 1,000%, even better. If you have 10,000 on your list and you have maybe 20,000 on your email list, that's because you're not only using LinkedIn as a source of information or the source of lead opt-ins. Then that's when you start building into that, professional etiquette. And then that also builds your brand, because people see your pages on Google, which is also extended from LinkedIn. So there's so much that I can pull out from that just one partnership, because I can see beyond just the partnership. I can see the SEO, the technical, the creative, the social, the psychological, the emotional, just all the whole nine. So that's what I'm looking at. Welcome, Albert.
Yeah, I mean, this is timely information. I do appreciate it, and thank you for what you're sharing. Because one of the things that I was looking at was to give information. At first, I was thinking to use LinkedIn for the LinkedIn Live feature, but because of the industry I'm in, a lot of it is regulated and what I could say. I have to submit my audio to be approved before I can release it. And so I was thinking podcast might be a solution. So this is and LinkedIn. I wanted to do live, but I'm like that might be a solution. So is and forgive me because I'm not really there's a lot I don't know. Is iHeart and Buzzsprout, are they competitors? Correct. They're both competitors, correct? They're the same thing, but just a different company.
Yeah, kind of, sort of, not quite. Then I wouldn't call them direct competitors. I would say they're indirect competitors.
So the reason why I'm asking, so you can do they do the same thing? Can I host on Buzzsprout and I mean do a podcast, use Buzzsprout as for the RSS feed, and so same thing with iHeart, or that's true, right?
Just not exactly, because I want to make it really clear, because they can be really mixed up, right? Because iHeart Media is a media company, and iHeart is an extension of a service where they offer and provide music, podcasts, the whole
Okay.
nine. So that's just what they do as a company. So now Buzzsprout is now a hosting distribution platform where you can now use your RSS feed from your hosting and then submit your RSS feed to iHeart, so that your podcast can be played through iHeart when it's parsed, whenever you're able to distribute automatically through other sources.
So it sounds like you're saying I could create a podcast on Buzzsprout, take the RSS feed, and send it to iHeart and to LinkedIn and everywhere else.
Exactly.
Okay, and then you're saying because I send the RSS feed to LinkedIn, now you have some type of like receipt and like people know they can check who you are because it's more. You use a better word than I'm using. So now, what are these podcasts where LinkedIn has their logo on them? Are these podcasts produced directly by LinkedIn, or does anyone who submit an RSS feed get this stamp that says LinkedIn on it?
Oh, great question. So those are two different things. So I'll go with the logo first. So with LinkedIn right now, the two people you see on that picture, these are two people that work there. So if you click the link, it will tell you to that the LinkedIn Career Development Editor, her name is Gianna, and the LinkedIn Community Manager, her name is Jamie. They're the ones that are on this picture, and they're LinkedIn staff members. So they are having a partnership. That's why you see LinkedIn and iHeart have their logos on the artwork, because it's called Let's Talk Offline. So that's a direct partnership LinkedIn and iHeart are doing to create an actual LinkedIn show. So LinkedIn are actually creating their own podcast subliminally, so that they can use LinkedIn podcasting, their own RSS feed mechanisms, their own features to expand their own network. So they're going to be using theirs own heavy, because since they're with iHeart, they're just going to parse it. It's just going to be going automatically. That's weekly, daily, however they're going to schedule their episodes. And that's going to help them get more visibility, because when you're on iHeart, you're on Apple, you're on Spotify, you now start taking a completely new territory, because you're no longer just on a website, you're on multiple websites, because your website is also part of those sites in the show notes. So that's one angle. And then for the RSS feed, as long as you create a company page on your LinkedIn, you can connect your RSS feed and just paste the link from your Buzzsprout into your LinkedIn. So those are some manual actions you can take. And then those steps just allow you to get access to the platforms that are available. But there are so many the hosting platforms, and at the same time there are also so many distribution platforms for podcasting that you can submit to, because even if you just submit to one, that's not enough. Like for me, I keep submitting my podcast even till today. I still submit my, if I see a new platform, I'll submit it. I think I'm probably on 30. So the more you're able to just expand, and then you just use one link to know where they all are, then it's easy for you to just know where to tap into, because that way it saves you time than just doing online research. So that's what we do. We help you save time on those things.
Now that's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, I, I. First of all, thank you for sharing that, because I was just thinking about what way to show up on LinkedIn, and people have been pushing the podcast, and you know, I do appreciate that. So let's say if I started a, let's say if I started recording, you said just say hello and whatever. I know you did. I'm not taking it verbatim, but let's say I started a podcast. Is it a difficult process to have it show up on LinkedIn after you start the business page, or how long is there approval process, or how does, I don't know if you want to get to that far in the discussion, but that's a question I have.
Yeah, it's immediately. That's a good thing about RSS feed. It's literally like like an automatic engine. That's a beautiful thing about podcasting. It's an engine. Like as soon as you submit, it hits approved and you're in, it's verified. And you have to validate it too. There's some things you just have to make sure you do. You don't want to have blurry images as your cover art. Just the simple things that you want to look professional, you want to look clean, you want to look sharp, on your images, just the whole PR factor. So when you have all those things in place, then you're good. And then once you connect it to those feeds and you submit it, if you have, let's say, 5 episodes, those episodes will automatically show up in your notifications bar on LinkedIn to say, hey, you have a new episode, click here to respond. So automatically LinkedIn has created a post for you. And that post, you just have to add a caption, and then you just hit publish, and that goes to your company profile and people see it. So, like for my company profile on LinkedIn, we have 1,200 followers. So it allows us to I just get notifications and I just keep sending it there. I do the same thing on threads, so the more I'm able to do that, send them to the website. People sign up to the website. I get emails saying, hey, we have a new podcast subscriber. I don't know where they're signing up from because I'm everywhere, but I'm sending them to one place. So I don't have to worry about where they are, because I know wherever they are, they'll find where they need to be, because I gave them a bridge or a pathway. So those are the things that I look out for with podcasting. So it's very easy to just sign up and connect, but it's not just having a podcast, but it's also the marketing behind it, the SEO. When you have an episode, how many episodes you have to hit, and then you have to also hit some thresholds. Welcome, Julie. You have to hit some thresholds too, because it's not just having one or two episodes. You can have an episode for 5 minutes. The next episode could be 10 minutes. It could be 15 minutes. The more episodes you have, the better it is, because there's something called an average length. And the average length of your show is the total combination of hours of playtime. And then you have to also consider that and see what that looks like on average, divided by the total number of shows that you have. So if you have 50 shows and you have 5 minute episodes of 50 shows, that's great. But if your competitor has 50 shows and they have 5 hours of each episode of 50 shows, then we'll see where there's more leverage, more equity, more density, more collaborations, more questions, more thought leadership. It's like having a book and a little book and having an encyclopedia. Like the difference is clear. So when you start creating your episodes and turning them into books, pages, websites, web pages that actually have context, they're long. You can have short ones, little bursts, and say, hey guys, just wanted to show here's a bonus episode. Then you go back to regular schedule. It helps. And bonuses are good too. People don't know how to use bonus episodes. I did the bonus episode for the Call Her Daddy interview, and that's one of the episodes that are really hitting, on my charts when I type in my podcast, because that's also branding with her name. So when people type in and they see that plus my episode, it's like a brand affiliation, not so, but in a way that actually tells you that, hey, even though we're talking about this, guys, it happens. Because when people do news sites and they talk about things, how many people see what you've talked about, the brand you're talking about? Because if someone sees the brand you're talking about, then they'll know that you kind of support the brand or want to know more about the brand or are aware of the brand. So podcasting is the easiest way to start conversations. And then you can bring experts, doctors, you can start bringing professionals. It's like bringing them to a radio show and it feels professional. So it's not like we're going to, do something informal. So that way, when you have that approach, it also edifies you as a business owner, and then because you can also speak, that also allows you to end up on speaking stages. Because you have a portfolio, you just have a good online profile. You're not just on Instagram. You have something that can give you that long-standing appeal and that attractiveness, because you also need a website for your podcast. Don't just have a Buzzsprout or a Libsyn or an Anchor. You also need to have a website, because when you don't have a website, you're depending on that one platform that you may not be paying for or are paying for, but you're not gaining first party data, which you will need if you want to scale your business and scale your podcast, especially when you start to monetize, brand, partner, merge, and do some, really good sponsorship deals.
I just wanted to say thank you. I just wanted to say thank you. The shot in the arm that I needed. And I wanted to say hello to Julie, CM, and Soma, and Oma, and David. But Favor, man, you show up all the time. I appreciate you, man. Thank you, brother.
You are welcome. Thank you so much for being here. Yes, I wanted to just make sure I could just open up a room. These days I do this on Clubhouse, and it's for me it's really fun to do, because I love, showing up, teaching, helping, thing. If I have the time to do that, I will. Because if I don't say this, you might not even know that this information is out there. So I like to make sure that it's also covered and people can learn. And when you educate someone and somebody actually finds the value, they'll stay. When you tell someone a story, when you give someone advice and it works, you'll stay, because you actually want to help the person. You're not trying to harm them. You're not trying to take their money. You're trying to help them so that they can save more time and spend more time with their loved ones, so that they can just, hit the publish button and you're all over the world. Like it's the best feeling in the world to like just sit back, hit the publish button, and people actually reading your content. You've published an email, you've published your newsletter, you've published your podcast, and you've taken it to the next level. That's something. Somebody connected with me today, and she connected with me on LinkedIn, and she told me that she heard about me through somebody else on Clubhouse, and the guy referred me to her and connected with me on LinkedIn. And I said, okay, here's my digital business card. And she connected with me. I talked to her today, and she has an amazing book on Amazon. And she's just launched it. She launched it last year, and she's trying to get people to connect with her, what listen to it, get to know more about those things. It's called Pieces of Hope, and it's full of songs, poems, things that are nice, quotes. People just want to give and show love, and it's not about the money. It's about, like, can this person just read this song or read this poem and be happy? Like, it's that sentimental value that people are looking for. It's not the materials. So if I can help someone at least cross that bridge, then perfect. So that's how I connected with her. And she said, hey, send us websites that you've worked on. And I sent her five. I said, hey, we have five websites. You can look through them. We've done more than five this year. So here are five you can look at. And then if you really want to get serious with the business, then I've told you the price, let me know. We'll start everything up, because I don't want to waste your time dragging feet, because I'm tired of dragging feet, because it doesn't help me, it doesn't help you. That's why I show up here all the time, and I give my hours, but I know these hours are in exchange. Somehow God just blesses me, and someone will show up and say, hey, I listened to you, I found you online, or somebody connected me. It just happens. I'm not online running ads trying to figure out who's going to pay for the service. I want to serve. That's why I'm here for free. That's why I'm here talking, because I love connecting with people. It's people first. And then from there, those other things can follow if we have to go through those things. So that's all about what I do. And I love it. I love doing that consistent. That's why I have a podcast. It just helps me elaborate. And I do music too. So I'm getting back into music. I'm making music now, getting to do some songs, because I have a lot to say. But I haven't been doing music because I've been so focused on business, for this last 5 years, because the business is 11 years, but half of it was music, the other half was SEO business. And I was like, okay, now I need to merge the two. So next year will be you'll be hearing some music from me very soon, guys. Some new music. I have some music, and it's going to be 20 years making music next year. 2 decades. So I'm excited. Now I'm doing podcast jingles, for businesses, original music. That's something that you can enjoy. And, imagine music that sounds good and it fits the mood. If it's jazz, okay, what is your audience? Does your audience like to go to the restaurant? Do they like to go to Italian? Do they like jazz music? Do they like country? Do they like pop? And then you now incorporate that into your style, and then we create the music for you. It's original composition. Like, the stress is out the door, because the last thing you want to do is be fighting with somebody for royalty music, or going to court for 5 seconds of songs that you didn't, clear samples. Like, I've seen those things, because I'm in the entertainment business industry as well. So I know how these things work when it comes to music, entertainment, and I've seen it all. But at the same time, you have to see how you connect. So I kind of just use that same knowledge and apply it to business, to ethics, to SEO, to all the good stuff as well. CM says, I'm new to LinkedIn. You always bring great value that we all can use. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Yes, LinkedIn is beautiful. It's a platform that if you really take it seriously, you will go so far, because LinkedIn is one of the fastest ways you can grow. And for me, one of the reasons why I grew so fast on LinkedIn and hitting that 10,000 followers really quick. And I was stuck at, I think, 6,000 followers for the past probably 5, 6 years, because I was just not on LinkedIn. I had a profile, but I didn't use it. I just had things there, but I didn't really use it properly, like connect with people. I was not online. My screen time was zero. So I said, okay, 2024, I want to be on LinkedIn more, and I want to help more people professionally, and help more businesses start their podcast, get their website straight, fix damages, and make sure that they have something that they can show. Like, what is your online portfolio looking like? Can I see what you have online? Can you give me a link? Those are things that I want to see, and I can help you see that for yourself too. So this year has been, big on LinkedIn, and I'm happy that LinkedIn is doing this as well. Because imagine if you're doing this well on LinkedIn, and then LinkedIn reaches out to you to say, hey, let's connect with you on LinkedIn, and you maybe get featured on LinkedIn's podcast. That can happen as a guest, as a creator, as a professional. These things can happen. They're a business too. So don't think too small. You have to think big, and these things can happen. So you have to really think about your business and think about all the things that you're growing, you're connecting, you're building, you're learning, and you're growing. So if you're on iHeart, that's great. That's a great place to be too. My podcast is on iHeart. And when you look at your podcast on iHeart as well, you just want to make sure that you're not off as well, because when you start creating content for people, the content they're going to be receiving or listening to will be coming from you, right? So if it's coming from you, it's coming from a place of discovery, right? Let me put the iHeart link so you can see it, so that when you also, I'm just showing you this so that when you look at it yourself, you can do this too, right? You can end up on these platforms. This is on iHeart, so when you click the link above, that will take you to iHeart.com, and you'll see the show. You'll see all the differences there. You'll see everything there as well. And they're also on other platforms. Then you'll see other popular podcasts. You can see everything is there. So you can end up on these platforms too, right? Somebody can search for your podcast on there and they can find you. They can search for your name, they can find you. And if you're very strategic by putting your name there, eventually someone will be able to find your podcast, they'll find your show, they'll find your business. And then before you know it, they are connecting with you on LinkedIn because you gave them your LinkedIn on your podcast. So it's easy access. And then it's also getting you closer and closer to just learning about how you can connect with more people at a faster rate. So it's not hard. It's just a matter of time. It takes time, but it will be worth the while. And you'll never regret doing a podcast if you just did it consistently, if it's just once a week. Just start once a week, and then you start to increase and increase your podcast length, because podcast length is also a big thing. The podcast average length is a big thing. Why is it a big thing? Because that tells people how much elaborations you go through, how much content you produce, and how well you've been able to expatiate on your content. Because when you look at the average audio length of the total number of episodes, that's a very huge number. Like, your average, you can have 100 episodes and your average length could be 5 minutes. It could be that short. It could be 50 minutes, right? But for that 50 minutes to hit, the average of that has to be times 10. So that means you have about 500 minutes worth of content spread out that you can actually average. So when you start looking at the big numbers, moving from 5 minutes to 15 minutes to 30 minutes to an hour to 2 hours to 5 hours, you start to build that over time. And then it makes it fun when you're actually interacting with people. Because imagine doing a 5 hour episode or a 2 hour episode by yourself. That would be boring. I mean, you can do it by all means. That would be great. That's a heavy masterclass. But you want to have people. You want to have interactions. You want to include feelings. You want to have emotions. You want to have desire. You want to have impact. So you do it live, right? For me, in September, I'm starting to do SEO workshops. I'm going to start introducing that very soon. SEO weekly workshops. So to be paid workshops, you get in there, you learn from me. I give you access to information. You can see it, like you can see me do case studies on the go. And then from there, you can implement them as you go, put them into your business. If you want to work with us, then you have it. If not, at least you have a copy and you have those things that you can do to amplify. Because it's hard to do this for everyone at the same time. But if we can have a channel that everyone can access at the same time, that saves me time and that saves you time. And that saves all of us time. And that time that we can spend, we can do more things with the time that God has given us. So we have to think about those long-term things as businesses to know where we're going and how we're connecting, where we actually connecting with people. And when we start seeing that our numbers are actually increasing, you start realizing that, oh, there's actually a connection here. There are people who are actually listening to your content. And I think when maybe you realize that your content actually is loud and people can actually see it, it's interesting. It's beautiful, it's humbling, but it's also very empowering. Because imagine if you're looking for an audience and then they show up. Then what? Let me ask you this, Albert. You've been looking for your audience all day long and they just show you, turn around and voila, there they are. What happens next?
Oh, wow. I mean, after you say thank you to God, But I mean, at that point, if my audience shows up, then I have to talk. We have to engage. I got to get to know them and see what their unique pain points are. I guess, right? I mean, but that would be an opportunity. That's the opportunity we're looking for. I mean, I don't know if you're asking for more than that, but that's the whole thing, right? They have to, once they know that I'm here and I know that where they are, then that's the opportunity you're looking for. So, I mean, what else? The game begins. I don't know. Maybe somebody has a better answer, but that seemed like the one for me.
No, I love that. No, 100%. It makes sense when you position it like that and you let more people into your world. And if you can understand their pain points, it makes so much sense, right? I read this, Good and Beautiful Bible Study Bible, and the very first one that came out is about the 5,000, how Jesus fed the 5,000. And the first thing that he did was not feed the people. They were hungry. They needed food. They were literally like they just needed something to eat. But Jesus didn't give them food first. The first thing he did was he had compassion on them. That was an emotional love. That was something that he had to give, because out of compassion for something, when you love your parents, when you love your children, when you love your friends, when you love your spouse, when you love the people that are around you, when you love your friends, you have some type of feeling like you would do something. You go a step further for them because you want to see them happy, you want to see them strive, you want to see them healthy, you want to check up on them, because you care. It's not just, hey, what's up? It's like we actually care because you actually add value to us. You're not just here, you're not existing, you're actually living. So those are things to look out for, you know
Hey, so favor, let me ask you because I love the brand, right? I'm looking at I guess that's the podcast that you offer. Did you because have you gone through a rebrand like that? Did you start with this brand? Did you just get started? Is this an evolving brand? So those are a couple of questions.
yeah, this brand has the We Don't Play brand has evolved a lot, a lot, because what we've done, and that's why it's called We Don't Play, because it's not just me. I started this intentionally with us, and it didn't start off as a podcast. It started off as a T-shirt, you know, and then it turned into other things. If you look at my profile here, that logo you see is my logo. That's my brand. It says We Don't Play at the back of that hoodie, the purple hoodie you're looking at, and then there's a writing on my wrist. So not on my wrist, sorry, on my arm. My full arm. When you look at the sleeve. So when I came to Clubhouse, I intentionally said, yeah, I want people to know the brand. They may not know it, but they're subliminally looking at it. Like when I show up, they're looking at it, they can see it, they may not know what it is, but they know what it is. Eventually, they may know what exactly it is. It's like a aha moment. So eventually picked it up from that. Then I said, okay, yeah, we have shirts, we have hoodies, we have athleisure wear. That's great. But who's watching? Who's listening? Where's the community? If I want to build a community, if I have a product, where's the community? Like, we just talked about audience. If the audience appears, then what? What happens? So I was like, okay, I have the product, but I don't have the community. I have a community, but my community is not aligned to the product. So I need to create something that can align myself into the product, and I don't have to be the focus of the product. So it was a whole lot of rebranding because, yeah, of course, I'm the owner of the podcast, but at the same time, the people who are featured on the podcast are the guests, are the stars, are the people who people want to listen to. So I'm just the force that just brings them through, but I'm not the focus point. I may be, but I don't want to be the only point that they're focusing on. So when I started that, put that into the podcast, I said, okay, we don't play. And that's a serious statement because we actually show up and we really do work. And then that also, before it even ended up as a podcast, it was music. Because in 2019, July, I released an album. I'll actually put the album here for you guys to listen to. It's 19 tracks. Let me just get it right now. And that was in July 2019. August 2019, I started a podcast. So literally, I kind of like dropped. I won't say dropped, but I paused. I paused my music and I picked up because I remember very well somebody that I got to connect with after because I went to Full Sail University in Orlando in Winter Park, Florida, Orlando, and I did entertainment business as a graduate program. And when I finished, I got to work with Bob Proctor, and it was a humbling moment at that time, and that was in 2018. And the before I even got that gig, before that time happened, this was like just after graduating. I was like, okay, what do I do? What do I do? I need to do. I have a business. I was just literally trying to figure out my way, and then we had an interview, and he said, okay, Favor, this is an interview. There were two people, and he was like, we're going to choose one out of you two to work with Demo. And Demo, he's an alumni of the school, and he's the one that actually did the sound engineering for Jay-Z's Magna Carta Holy Grail. He's the one that mixing engineered it. So I'm like, okay, this guy, I don't know who he is, but we're gonna be talking every day. So I just, put on a good suit on, everything, made sure I was, good. And it was an interview on a Saturday. So getting in there, talking to this guy, he says, this is in 2018. Yeah, because that event happened in 2018. Because that's where I was working with the Proctor Gallagher Institute. And I was working with branding, creative, and everything as a camera operator and just doing media. And he told me one thing, and I'll never forget. He said, Favor, when you kick off, when you start doing your thing, yes, you have a lot of talent, you can do this and that. But when you pick up one thing, the other is going to go on a tangent. That's something I'll never forget. He said, if you choose music, whatever else you were trying to do will go on a tangent. If you choose the other thing, whether it's business, SEO, whatever it is I want to do that is actually going to edify my brand, the music is going to suffer or your music is just going to decline. And I said, okay, what am I going to let go of? And I did an album. If you click this link, it will take you to my album. I did 19 tracks. And after I finished that, Colorful Sounds 2, it's a series. There was one and there's two, and I'm probably going to do three soon. And after I finished in 2019, I said, okay, I've done an album. This thing has been tiresome. It's done. What next? I'm like, am I going to do music videos for this album? Or am I going to focus my energy on doing a podcast to talk about the songs I did in this album? So I said, okay, I'll do a podcast to talk about the songs in the album. So I started, before I even started inviting guests, I was doing my own show so this We Don't Play has come from a long journey. I'm giving you like the story from back, like way back. So I've had this for a long time. It's just taking time to form. And as I was evolving, I was like, okay, it's coming together. Let's see where this goes. So as I now picked it up and I said, okay, let's do it as a podcast. I thought about it. I said, I'm in the music industry. Let me talk about music. Let me talk about emerging artists. Let me do music reviews, top 10 music. And I used to even go on my Instagram back in 2020 when there was a lockdown. I would do like, hot or not songs. Like, is this song a hit or a miss? I'll play the preview of the song. People add it to their playlist. I used to have all those jams. So it happened and I was enjoying it. People were enjoying it. I was like, oh, Favor, you have music sounds and all that, but it's exhausting. And I was like, okay, I can't keep doing this forever. So eventually I said, you know what? Instead of doing this on Instagram the whole day, let me go to my podcast and talk about it and then talk about my own music. So every single song here, I did the back, like behind, I call it behind the lyrics. And I talked about why I talked about what I said in the song. And then I'll preview the song and people listen to the song and people still listen to it till today. People still radio spin it. I still look at it. People still Shazam my music in the world. So when I did my podcast, I think what got me to the point where I could get that fast global attention was because with my music, I was already kind of globally there. Like people were listening to my music in all parts of the world, but I wasn't like a star or a superstar, but my music was being listened to. It was just like a few thousands people here and there. So it was already international based. So when imagine an artist having a podcast. Imagine your favorite artist having a podcast. You're just naturally going to listen. So you may be a fan, but you may never even show up to an event or show up in person, but you're available, you're there, and they know your name. So I kept the same profile, I kept the same branding. And then I said, okay, let's do this podcast. It was a joke. It was literally just a business that was just on talking. I was not really using it for business purposes, no advertising, just straight communication. And then from music turned that into solo episodes. I started teaching people how to use LinkedIn. I started teaching people how to use social media, SEO, Pinterest. If you hear my early episodes, 2019, you'll see them. And then in 2020, I said, okay, let me switch it up. Let me start bringing guests to the show because I feel like I don't want to be the only one talking. So I now had to flip it and say, okay, I'm gonna talk 20% and I'll let the host, oh, sorry, the guest talk 80%. And then I said, no scripts. That's what I told myself on the podcast. No scripts. If you show up on the podcast, we're gonna talk and have a conversation. I'm not gonna ask you question one, two, three. You all I know is that at the end you're gonna tell them how they can connect with you. And in the beginning, we can talk about your story, but we're not gonna go through like a list of questions. It's gonna be free flow. And that's what we did. So from those episodes, people started coming on board. I started finding out about Podmatch, Matchmaker. There was another one called Audrey.io, but they closed down. AUDRY.io. They closed down. It was a kind of the Canadian based network. So I've seen all these things, and I'm just like, interesting. Okay, let's keep going. So 2021, 2022, I was doing podcasting. In 2023, I was like, there is actually money in podcasts. I was not thinking about the money. All I was thinking about was people, community, branding, just PR. Let my name get out there because I know stuff. Like I know stuff to know a little bit of something, But I was like, how am I going to show what I know on an Instagram reel or on a YouTube short? Like it can't be that impactful. I need something bigger than that. So I said, okay, I'll use SEO fully and make sure that my podcast has SEO infused. And that way I was able to literally launch that off. And then I said, okay, I'm going to turn on sponsorships. And now we sponsor shows. And now our clients that are getting on our podcast, we started featuring our clients because we're helping our clients. So I'm like, hey, if you're our client, we'll have you on our show because we know that once you go global, because we're a top 3% global lead. So I know at least the little that I have can push you a little bit further than where you were when before we met. So at least I don't want I don't want to leave you in a worse place than I found you. So I want to make sure at least I'm helping you or edifying your process. So that's how we picked it up on the podcast. And now it's the fifth year. And now we're thinking about, I'm thinking about educational material for schools because my goal, my vision is to actually build a school, like to build an institution where I can actually have people, instructors, come and teach and all that kind of stuff because I want to help kids, get them skilled up and everything because if you look at the LinkedIn co-founder, I think he said that in the next 10 years he predicted that 95 jobs will not be a thing because of AI and everything going. It may still be there, but it may not be as prevalent as it is now. So it's just good to start early, and I'm just putting my blueprint on the sand, in the times of sands of time. That's what they say. So that's how my podcast has been, from music to podcast, and now it's gonna be both. I know that was long.
No, I see David's join. I don't know if you have a question. I had another one, but I don't know if David wants to jump in with
What's
the
up,
question.
David? And then if he has a question, you can ask him. We can come back to you, to Albert. You there, David?
Yeah, I am here actually. Working the grill outside, but yeah, I am. I'm doing great. Yeah, I just listening to you as our barbecue out here. It's a good day here in San Antonio. It feels amazing. I'm sure it feels good where you're at too. Um, and yeah, man, as you were talking, I was like. Favor, man, where's the merch, man? Now you built all this, your brand, and now where's the product, right? maybe, maybe I'm missing it, man. You gotta send an email with your whole merch, man. Anyways, I'm glad to be here listening to you, and I love everything you're saying, especially podcast. And what I have to say about podcasts is everything you already know. Um, I've just happen to learn it from the best. And one of the things that's so amazing about podcasting is also that I just did one a week ago of an interior designer. I interviewed an interior designer, and man, I saw it come up on. It's already ranking on YouTube. With the right formula, and what I mean by that, the right SEO, it will rank everywhere. So I'm just thrilled to see that. Of course, I put that podcast in the article, which I believe I sent over to you, and it's just, it works great, man. I mean, you, you put all these components together, and they're it's gonna come back to you. So yeah, I'm just here listening while I'm turning the meat and stuff like that. But thank you again, Favor, for having me, and just keep shooting all that, that great information that you're doing, and you're just amazing, man. I'm just here, but don't forget about the products, man. Time to catch up. Anyways, thank you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. No, you actually got me thinking too, because I'm like, you know what? If I'm building a school, the school has to have a uniform, and the uniform is going to be the merch. So it's all coming back full circle, because I had the product first. I had to drop the product and then find the community. Now I have the community and I need to bring the product back. So it's like some people are like, I didn't know you have merch. I didn't know you do music. Because I just didn't talk about those things because I was like, you know what? I don't want to confuse my audience. I don't want to skew them. I don't want to make them like, what are you here for? So I just said, you know what? Let me just laser focus on this one thing, then eventually, if you like it, I love it. If it's there, it's available. If it's not, that's fine. So I will bring the merch back. I'm going to be bringing it back because I was actually using the merch initially when I was in the pivoting moment. I was like using the merch to, say thank you to the guests for being a guest on the show. I would ship them a product like, a mug or like, a t-shirt, with the logo just to say thank you. And I was doing that, but I was like, this is a lot of work. Like I was trying to do so much, but my impact was so little. And I was like, I feel like I'm trying to create a huge speech, but I'm only using like a droplet, in the ocean. So I needed to really like re-strategize and ask myself, okay, who am I really talking to and who's really listening? So from music, I already knew what that channel was, audio. So I said, okay, I'll switch that into my alter ego and do podcasts because podcast is more of talking. Music is more of singing, rapping, being on tune, making sure you're making sense and all that good stuff. So yeah, that's how I've been able to build it even into the music that I've done. I've made music as well. Welcome, Jennifer. I see you're a musician too. So yeah, there's so much you can do as a
Yeah,
business. You know what I'm saying?
yeah. Hey, Favor, and that's that right there. What you just said. I mean, that's the master class on its own, man. I mean, I, man, I could see a lot of people just companies that they're trying to sell their product reaching out to you because of that. What you just spilled right there, man. You just build your brand and over the last 5 years with podcasting and SEO and all this great stuff. And man, I mean, I'm telling you, that's if you haven't thought about that, that's a master class right there.
I just wanted to
Yes.
jump. Okay, sorry, Favor. I wanted to jump in when
No,
I
go
get a
ahead. I
chance.
was I was waiting for you.
Oh no, no. So this is something that people talk about. Um, does podcast have to be? I know it doesn't have to be, but and interviewing people, or can it just be me talking? I know. I mean, I know that's a. I've heard that debate. So does it have to be me interviewing someone, or could I just give information to audience, and will they be okay with that?
Yeah, great question. So there are 5 types of podcast styles, and most people either use one, two, or three of them, depending on how you want your marketing mix or business model to go. So the first one is solo. So that's solo interview, sorry, solo episode, solo just you on the show, it's only you. And then the second one is a co-host. So you can have somebody else who you can collaborate with, you can talk to, that'll be you and the person. So you always hear two voices. So that also helps the brand also amplify. So you can actually have discussions. So it feels like you have interviews, but you don't need an interviewee, because you're already doing the talking and the listening. So it's really that good way of building the brand and also letting people get into your world. That's one way. Then the third way is interview style. So it's one on one. So it's you and the other person, and that's where you can actually connect to that person. And then the fourth one is round table, which would be, you, other people around panels, that kind of discussion. This could be a round table, like what we have right now, me, you, out, and David. That's a round table, so we can be able to have those conversations and share knowledge and impact. Then, how many have I said? One solo.
That was four.
Four. And then the fifth one is content repurposing, like faceless content, theme content. If it's motivational, that you want to have quotes, music, sound, anything that is going to make people themed or attributing to that connection, that would be the fifth one. So you can either use one, two, or three of them.
No, awesome. Yeah, I mean, at this point, all the objections are gone. Right now, it's just. It reminds me. I'm gonna say this, and I'm gonna have to go eat dinner. I remember. I hope I could share this. I remember when I used to say I can't go to the gym because I didn't have time, and then I became a full time entrepreneur, and I had all the time in the world. I still wasn't going to the gym, so I realized it wasn't that I couldn't go to the gym; it's that I have all these reasons, excuses. We could. So yeah, man. I mean, it's. I mean, and actually, some artists that are very successful. You actually, I actually like going back and listening to their earlier works before they became successful. So so all the objections are gone. But thank you, Favor. I love your space, man. Really appreciate you.
Thank you, Albert. Yeah, that was a good one. Yeah, definitely. It helps. When you're looking at your favorite artist and they drop a documentary, you're so excited about it because you want to learn more about their life. Yes, you know all the hit songs, but you want to know how their first song felt. You want to know how their first million felt, how their first record deal felt, how their first everything felt. So those are moments that you cherish. You don't that doesn't happen twice. So if you can see that and it happens to you, you're like, oh wow, okay, I can impact more people. Then it just lights a fire in you. So yes, please feel free, Albert, to connect with me. The link is available up here. We can have a 15-minute conversation, talk about everything, set you up, and get you ready for 2025. God willing, like time is really flying. Like I'm really excited about the new year and all this year has brought. And I feel like it's been a good year done. It's a blessed year, and there's so much more to come if we position ourselves correctly. So thanks, Albert, and hope you enjoy. David is also cooking too, so I'm gonna get myself some food too, cook a little bit, see what I can do, and get the time. It's 7 o'clock here. Yeah, 7:37. So I said, let me come here, connect with y'all. I've been here since 6:25. So I've really spent an hour. I said I was going to spend an hour. So I kept my word. And I wanted to make sure I'm able to give y'all my time. So connect to me, work with us, get busy, get excited because this is just the beginning. If iHeart and LinkedIn are doing this and you have a podcast for your business, you have no other reason but to start one for yourself. And don't think about, oh, I have 5 episodes, I have 10. Don't think about others. Just think about yourself. Everybody's on their own race. Everyone has their own time. You were born at a certain time. So don't fight for someone else's time that you're not on. Just do your own thing, learn the process. Just trust the process. When they say trust the process, just trust it because the right person is going to listen to you and you never know what that conversation can lead to. For me, I've been surprised so many times and they keep coming, and it's a beautiful thing because the more you give, the more you receive. The less you give, the less you receive. So it's that law of reciprocity, whether in time, money, efforts, or otherwise. So thank you, Albert. Appreciate you, David, Soma as well, Julie, Austin, and CM. Glad to have you guys all here. Hope you have an amazing evening. And I'm going to see you guys soon. I'm going to see you guys on Friday. I might do a room tomorrow. I don't know yet. I'll see. But I will definitely do something on Friday. And if you're here, get into the marketing club and RSVP for how to convert your keywords to money because I'm going to be asking people in the room to give me a keyword that they want to actually use. And I'm going to tell them what word has the most money in that keyword. And I'll literally tell you how much it costs. And then from there, you can now do the math and see if you want to, climb up that ladder or, accelerate the ladder with us. And then we can take it from there. So thank you all so much for joining and have a blessed night. Take care, everyone. God bless you. And I'm going to see you all bright and early.